Hello everybody, it's me, Nick, head of Max Mocks, and today, as you can see, I am not going to be doing a mock showcase. I will be doing a review. This is the LEGO Ideas Voltron Defender of the Universe set. It is set number 21311, it has 2,321 pieces, and it is LEGO Ideas product number 22. Before we get started, some of you might be wondering, what the heck is Voltron? And the short answer to that is, I have absolutely no clue. In all seriousness, though, Voltron was a cartoon from the 80s that featured a team of good space explorers made up of Fearless Leader Guy, Hothead Second-in-Command Guy, Kid Appeal Guy, the Female Lead Guy, and the Heavy Weapons Guy, who battled a space terrorist group consisting of a really evil guy, a not quite as evil guy who wanted to be the really evil guy, and a sciencey witch guy, with a cat spy, with their 5 mechanical lions that form to become Voltron. Also, I think the instruction booklet that I got all that stuff from also mentioned some comic relief characters. If you could not tell already, I am not really a Voltron fan. The 80s show had a bit too much 80s cheesiness in it for me, unlike other 80s shows. But from what I have heard, a lot of people have said the Netflix remake of the show by DreamWorks is pretty good. Others, not so much, so I might start watching that soon. So you might be wondering why I picked this setup. And the truth to that is, I'm a victim to any sort of robot that transforms. Let's face it, Voltron here is probably the closest LEGO will come to ever making an official Transformer, let alone a combiner. And combine that with the fact that he has lips so luscious they could put overlords to shame, I knew I needed to buy the set the moment LEGO announced it. Even after I found out that the legs had no articulation, I was still willing to pick the set up. And after I built this guy and I combined him a few times, I will say, this is quite a cool LEGO set. But that's basically what everyone else who reviewed this set has said. So, I'm going to do this review of the model a bit differently. Most people have reviewed Voltron and said how they think he holds up as a LEGO toy. I am going to review Voltron and say how I think he holds up as a Voltron toy. First, however, let's decombine him. The blue lion looks really nice, and the design is quite cool. But how well does it hold up to the original cartoon design of the blue lion? Oh, and I guess I should bring this up. This set is based off the 80s incarnation of Voltron, so I'm judging all cartoon accuracy off the original animation models used. From what I can tell, this model is actually very accurate. Most of the differences I could find are very minor pickets that will just make me sound spoiled if I complain about them. For example, this yellow square is a bit too far forward. I think the back area looked a little different. Nothing really glaring here. However, there is one difference that's a bit more than a picket. Parts of this lion's forehead, as well as his ears, should be blue, but are left gray, which detracts a lot from the animation accuracy. And I find that very disappointing because otherwise the head design is completely perfect animation-wise. So, show accuracy is decent, but how does the blue lion hold up in posability? Each leg can move forwards and backwards. So can the knees, and so can the feet. The tail is made of 3 segments, each one on a mixel ball joint. And the jaw opens. While the posability on the lion is good and doesn't bother me, I am disappointed in the opportunities LEGO had for further posability in this lion mode, but didn't take. The head is completely stationary, so you always have to have it looking straight forward, and these front legs could have been on ball joints. And I'm not saying that the legs could have been on ball joints because I think they should have, though I do. I'm saying they could have been on ball joints because there literally are ones used in the leg's construction. Come on, Lego. You could have built this system so that the legs could pivot and rotate around the ball joints, instead of just rotating around them. You could have still given the shoulders its circular look, and you could have replaced these ratchet bends with mixel ball joints so the lion could have an ankle pivot. It only had to be in the front. This also brings me to another issue. You can't get any real cat-like poses with the lion. The best pose I could get this guy into was a getting ready to pounce pose, as it looks most natural. However, the front legs are not long enough to get a sitting pose. And may I remind you, a sitting pose is the most common way to display an animal action figure, and the Five Lions did this a lot in the TV series. This also kinda limits your display options if you want your setup to be of the Five Lions. You're stuck with straight, prowling, or preparing to pounce. So, overall, the Blue Lion is decent, but there was definitely more that could have been done with it. Out of all the lions, I think the yellow one is my favorite, or at least my favorite of the Lego versions. I dig the color scheme, the cannon, and the giant fins on his back. And, from what I can tell, this guy is basically spot on with his animation model. Just a bit more black on the head, and it would have been perfect. And I think the head design of the yellow lion is probably my favorite. Sure, it uses the same structure as the blue lions, but I think it comes out looking much sleeker and intimidating. And even though this isn't completely animation accurate, I like how these curved bricks make it look like the head has a bit of a mane. However, structure-wise, he really isn't any different from the blue lion. He still has the same posability and the same problems. Also, I want to quickly bring up that these four-leg designs could have been done a bit better, because when they're straight, they don't look right. Also, I wish this cannon here could move more, because from what I can tell, in the cartoon, this cannon would move between being kind of what it is now and a more turret-like gun, probably depending on what kind of mood the animators were in when they drew it. I personally would have preferred the cannon to be more of a turret, because even though this is the style of cannon that is more accepted among the fans, again, more posing options. Holy cow, I just got him to do a handstand pose while I was playing around. Okay, forget what I said earlier, you now have 4 posing options with the lions. And now that we're done with the leg lions, onto the arm lions. Personally, I think the red lion is the weakest in the set. This lion is very boxy, which the cartoon red lion was, but it wasn't plain like the Lego version is. The back of the lion often had details and minor greebling on it that I wish Lego had included. That being said, I wouldn't have minded if Lego had taken some cues from the new version of the Red Lion, and added some more interesting geometry to the lion. It wouldn't have been completely cartoon accurate, but it would have been better than just having a bland lion. The Red Lion may have a bland body, but what it does have that isn't bland is its head. The Red Lion's head design is fairly basic, but it looks really sharp. And I kinda wish that as much time that was put into the head had also been put into the body. As for the posability, he can do everything the leg lions can. A 2-segmented tail with a hinge joint at each segment, plus a side-to-side at the waist, and a side-to-side in the neck. So, posability on this guy is a little weird. You've probably already figured out that the waist and neck bends are just articulation for Voltron himself, and in my opinion they don't completely translate over well to lion mode. However, you can make some cheats to get the lion into some more interesting poses. For example, if you want the lion to look up, just disconnect the lower socket from its ball joint, and vice versa if you want the lion to look down. You can do the same for the waist joints, but if you disconnect the lower socket to lift the upper body upwards, you can only get this far because this ball joint doesn't have enough clearance to make a full 90-degree rotation. The side-to-side bend is hindered by this 2x4 tile right here, which doesn't have much purpose aside from covering some studs. So to get a slightly wider rotation, just pop this tile off, and there you go. Similarly, tail articulation is hindered by this 2x3 plate back here, which prevents the tail from folding down flush with the back of the lion. To fix this, simply remove the plate, and there you go. The leg setup is much smaller than the ones used in the lions that become Voltron's legs, but you can still get the exact same amount of articulation out of them. You can even get the exact same poses. Well, minus the handstand. And my complaint about ball joints in the blue and yellow lion carries right over to the red lion because, once again, there were ball joints used in the leg construction that only allow the legs to go forward and backwards. Okay, I know I sound way too obsessed over the absence of ball joints in the lions, and admittedly I knew when LEGO released the photos that the lions wouldn't have them. However, when I saw this in the photos, I believed there was an actual construction reason why the legs and lion paws didn't pivot. And I didn't realize the leg designs used ball joints in non-ball jointy ways. The leg articulation actually doesn't bother me as much as it sounds like it does. It's more the absence of head articulation that annoys me. I honestly think that just more effort could have gone into all of the lion's articulation, as there's very little articulation in Voltron himself due to LEGO's half-baked claim that knee and leg joints on mechs taller than a foot damage the joint pieces inside them. But enough dwelling on the negatives. Let's move on to the LEGO Green Lion is pretty accurate to the cartoon. I think the only difference is that the cartoon version had a rounder, chubbier back section, and I can't really blame LEGO for wanting to change that. The green and red lion are obviously built nearly identical to each other. Heck, even the head is the same, except for some minor details. But this is more because of the fact that both the red and green lion's heads become Voltron's hands than a lack of creativity. I will admit, I think a completely unique head sculpt for the green lion would be cool, but it probably would look a bit wonky when all of the lions were combined. And while the head may still be identical, the green lion has a beautifully shaped body. And while the red lion was intentionally designed to be boxy, I kinda wished that some geometry like what was included on the green lion was added to him. As for posability, it's all the same as the red lion, including cheats. However, the waist bend for the green lion is actually a little bit wider than the one for the red lion, because the lower body on the green lion is skinnier than the red lion's, providing more clearance for this to bend. So, I have to say, I think both of the limb lions are decent, but the green one pulls it off better. Before we move on to the final lion, I just want to mention one last gripe I have with the lions. That involves, you guessed it, the legs. I personally find that the legs are under-detailed. Now, in an instance like this, I'm usually willing to accept under detail because the cartoon animation models the legs are based on didn't have much detail either, making the design that much more cartoon accurate. This is the same principle most of Takara's masterpiece Transformers follow to have ultra-cartoon accurate designs. However, the principle of under-detailed legs conflicts because there are these new printed tiles on them that I'm holding right now. LEGO really likes these pieces that they came up with for Voltron, and they are, no denying, cool, as they can not just work as mech arms and legs, but hatches, weapon details, even Hummer hubcaps. They're very universal. But on the lion legs, they look like they're a starting point for a shaft or a beam that should run the length of the leg, or at least down to here. But there is none, it just drops off right here. This is what I mean by the semi-detail and the non-detail conflicting on the mech's leg, because in my eyes, these two different styles just don't work together, and I think a lot of action figure enthusiasts would agree with me. I personally would have preferred to see LEGO find a way to keep this panel line on the leg going downward, even if it wasn't cartoon accurate. If not, maybe just unprinted tiles would have looked better. Most people who have reviewed Voltron have pointed out how that the Black Lion is probably the most static in the set. And yeah, they're right. The Black Lion does the least stuff, as he really feels like he is just a central component of Voltron turned into a lion. And I mean, yeah, that is what he is, but it feels like barely any thought or effort really went into him. He has barely any posability, just a little bit in the front paws and a little bit in the back paws. Each segment of his unnaturally large tail is on a hinge joint. His head can swivel a little bit, and the mouth can oh. That is obviously Voltron's face down there. And if you want to, you can unfold the wings a little bit, but they don't look that great because they're pretty side down. So, not many options for display, but how does it hold up in design and cartoon accuracy? Well, in short, the design is correct, but the proportions are completely wrong. I know LEGO really had no choice for the back legs because they had to be big to support the torso and the combined form. But LEGO insisted on making the front legs a full 2 studs narrower than the back legs, which makes them look almost malnourished in comparison, and even more so with these massive shoulders above them. I personally believe it would have been a much better design choice if these supports for the legs had been replaced by ball or even ratchet joints. These would connect to sturdier legs that were at least 3 studs wide, and had a stronger resemblance to the original characters. It would also prevent the lion from repeatedly doing this. Literally, that wasn't even a hard push, I just tapped him. The tail back here is also just hilarious. They really should have made it longer and maybe even tried to make it narrower. However, one thing this model does get right is the head. This design is beautiful. LEGO did a good job making it look feline-like, robotic, and fierce all at the same time. Overall, the Black Lion does look decent, but it's the least cartoon accurate, and probably the most underwhelming. Before I combine all of the lions, I want to bring up that the building process of the lions was a lot of fun. Each lion is unique in its own way. Even the ones that share the same design have some kind of idiosyncrasy to them that makes them a unique building experience. And because of that, this building experience entirely is just a very unusual one that you rarely get, and it is quite a fun experience. One of the designers of the set, Mark Tranter, suggests that you build it alone no matter what. Personally, I do still disagree with this statement. I'd say if you want to build it with a friend, you can, but you have him or her work on one of each limb lion while you work on the others as well as the black one. The red and green lion, as well as the blue and yellow lion, do have their differences, but they're similar enough that you won't miss out on much if your friend builds one and you build the other. Now let's transform him. Quick note, this gun barrel can be a bit finicky when you're transforming the yellow lion. It may appear to get in the way of this black part right here. If you are having this problem, just make sure the barrel is adjusted so that the end of this black stripe fits right into its cannon. Another reason why this should have been a turret-style cannon piece. I have to tell you, the combined form of Alliance's Voltron looks amazing. I especially love the head conversion sequence because this system could not have been easy to make in Lego bricks, but it's done very well and works very smoothly. And as for cartoon accuracy, he's about as close as you can get in Legos. I mean, sure, he's not completely accurate, but like a lot of other 80s cartoon robots, Voltron's animation model was wildly inconsistent. The legs would always disappear on the lions when they formed Voltron, and the lion heads, as well as Voltron's thighs and arms, would stretch, compress, and contort in strange ways. But if he didn't do any of that in the show, this is what he would look like. And the building techniques and design that make him look like that are awesome. I love how so many of the designs are completely brick-built, but are recognizable instantly as parts of Voltron, especially the shield on his chest. And the face design may not capture the lusciousness of Voltron's lips as well as the original mock did, but it's still a very good face design. And as an added bonus... you can make him a furry. And as for posability... he has a full 360-degree rotation at the shoulder, though you'll need to move the wing out of the way to get him to do that. He has a very slight bend at the elbow, and it goes both ways so you can swap the arms around if you want. His wrists can move both up and down, but that's it, so it looks a bit unnatural. He has a limited swivel at the head, which is okay, but if you look down there, you can tell that they could have put a mixel ball joint there. And nothing in the waist, and nothing in the legs. So, posability in Voltron is alright, I guess. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I knew Voltron wouldn't have leg posability when I ordered him. But after I finished building, I wondered more about why there was no leg articulation. As I said earlier, Lego claims that putting leg articulation in mechs taller than a certain height will damage whatever joints are in the legs, though I still don't know what evidence Lego bases that off of. However, Voltron uses a very clever technique for his shoulder rotation, where a small Technic turntable connects up with a gear attached to a ball joint rotating within a socket. This causes a bunch of friction and prevents the arms from spinning around, and also allows for a very sturdy rotation. And remember, that is not an actual Lego joint piece. This is a joint built out of Lego Technic pieces. So if such a sturdy one was able to be fought up for the arms, why couldn't one have been fought up for the legs? And while these 5 pieces are stationary, the mechanics that allow them to have this simulated stance could foreseeably be modified to move inwards and outwards. But even without leg posability, the arms are still decent. And there's no point in decent arm posability if there are no weapons to pose the arms with, except there's a catch. Voltron comes with 2 weapons, the blazing sword here, and this shield, which I have run several web searches for, but I cannot find the name of. Please tell me what it's called in the comments, but for now I'm going to call it the Omega Shield, because that came up in some of the web searches I made, but it was the name of an episode, not of a weapon. The sword looks like it's supposed to, but if you flip it over, you'll see I've actually modified its construction a bit. The blazing sword is supposed to be built using 2 long plates that run the length of the sword, but this makes the sword very heavy, and even with the large plates replaced with these small ones, the sword is still very heavy, and that is going to cause a problem you'll see in a minute. There is no way to store the sword or shield when Voltron is decombined, which is annoying, but both items are large and obvious, so losing them shouldn't be easy. What is more annoying is the fact that to put the blazing sword into Voltron's hand, you have to pop off the blade and handle, and then pop the handle and blade into Voltron's hand. This is not a method I am thrilled with, as A, there is a chance part of the sword will stay in Voltron's hand when you try to remove it, and B, what are you supposed to do with this? The shield is not as much of a chore as the sword is. You simply plug the handle into Voltron's hand, and often the handle doesn't come out. But he does still look good with his weapons. However, you might have noticed that his left arm is tucked back a little bit. And that's because, as I mentioned earlier, the sword is very heavy. And if you straighten his arm out to try and get a different pose, Lego Voltron can literally only hold his most powerful weapon at his side or with his elbow bent. This is really disappointing. Even if his legs can't move, Voltron should still be able to pull off his classic poses. In fact, the pose Voltron is in on the box is about as good as you can get with this set. And here's the kicker. This isn't just disappointing for the Lego set, but for the Lego group itself. All the issues I've discussed in this set, not just the ones in Voltron's combined form, they could have been fixed easily. If the ball joints in the wrists and elbows were just replaced by stronger, sturdier ratchet joints, the sword wouldn't drag Voltron's arms down. Ratchet joints allowing for in and out movement could have also been used to connect the arms to their sockets and open up a whole new range of posability possibilities. The legs on the lions could have done more, and parts could have been more detailed. They even could have found a way to transform the set without parts forming. And when I see the original fan design of the Voltron set, and how its creator spent 2 years trying to make it perfect, and I see that the Lego designers only half recreated his vision, I'm worried that the reason this set has its flaws isn't because they couldn't have been avoided. It's because somebody didn't care enough to fix them, or even see them. Yet, what disturbs me more is that no one else seems to have noticed them. People are loving this set without even bringing up the issues it has in the slightest. And to me, that says people's views on LEGO are being warped. Voltron fans are giving this LEGO set 5-star ratings, and these issues are hard to miss, so a Voltron fan may indeed not be expecting anything better from a LEGO set. I know Niels Christensen has a lot on his shoulders as LEGO's new CEO, but ever since he was appointed, LEGO has been having trouble getting their sales up, and in my opinion the company has had a strange decrease in creativity. Niels, I know you probably won't see or even hear about this video, but I need to say this. This set was a missed opportunity. This might have helped lift LEGO out of the sales profit decrease they've been having, as you could have attracted a whole new wave of action figure fans to LEGO if the team who had made this set was just encouraged to go a little bit farther. And the reason I say this is because what makes LEGO LEGO isn't just the plastic bricks that you can build anything with. It's the talented designers that have as much imagination as the kids and adults that play with LEGO have, and that aren't afraid to use them. It's the sets that you can tell the design and building team went that extra mile with by just looking at them. And this set isn't like this. If you look in the design story section of the instruction booklet, you can see early drafts of the build had leg articulation, and shoulders that could move outward, even. So Niels, please encourage LEGO to stop considering satisfactory work as acceptable. Encourage LEGO to start going the extra mile again, and have the builders and designers push their work to their limits more often. LEGO classifies this build as being for builders age 16 and up. And somebody told me that this was so people would know the LEGO set wasn't really a play toy and more of a statue. But if that's the case, LEGO might as well not have bothered putting any posability into it. It could have just been able to combine, and maybe you could lock the arms and legs into certain positions. Is this set good? Should you buy it? Is it worth the money? I can't really answer any of these questions. Coming back to what I said at the beginning of the video, this is a good LEGO toy, but not a good Voltron toy. But personally, I don't know what to make of it. The design and mechanics of it are all beautiful, and I can tell the designers had a lot of fun building it. But in capturing Leandro Tayag's vision, it really falls flat. The disappointments I had in this set actually made me realize how high my standards are for posability in an action figure, and it gave me a new idea for an outro phrase you'll hear next week. I don't want to hate this set, especially when I see how much fun the team who designed it had working on it, and how good it looks. But overall, it is a disappointment. LEGO should have been able to fix all the issues I brought up in this video, or at least have found a way to make them less obvious. I recently participated in a comment thread with Boys with the Most Toys when he was asked his opinion of the LEGO Voltron set, and he said that he thought it looked cool, but was overall a failure on LEGO's part. I defended the set as the reviews I had seen up until that point had praised the set and hadn't mentioned any of the problems I had with it. But now that I own it, I think he might have had a point. I hate to call a LEGO set a failure, especially Voltron here, as he is very cool looking and a very fun building experience. But he could have been so much more. Is the LEGO Voltron set a failure? Well, I have to say, no, he isn't, because I'm not going to let him be one.